Welcome to Industry Insights with Route Consultant, your front row seat to the fast-moving world of logistics and beyond. Each week, we bring you game-changing insights, real-world strategies, and fresh perspectives to fuel smarter investments and build stronger businesses. Join us as we sit down with expert guests to explore emerging trends and pressing topics across a wide range of industries. This is Industry Insights. Welcome back to Industry Insights. Today, we're focused on something that every business owner is going to run into eventually, which is their exit from the business. And we're going to focus on this actually in two parts. So the first episode is really going to be everything leading up to the exit. So what are all of the things that you need to do to prepare your business for a close, to actually maximize that value when you get there, and really make it something that a buyer can pick up and take over and be successful with. And then we're going to come back in a week and look at part two, which is everything that happens after you sell that business. And it's the part that a lot of business owners actually forget about until they're in it, which is how do you plan your legacy? How are you successful in planning your purpose for your business and your wealth moving forwards? Today, for part one, we have Steve Alverson and Austin Coley here from McCall Wealth Advisors to help us talk through all of this. So Steve and Austin, if you guys just want to say hi and introduce yourselves and give a little background on McCall Wealth Advisors.
Yeah, Josh, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So probably the easiest way to get started is just a quick background. If you guys just want to give a little bit of info on McCall and Associates and what each of you guys do there, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Steve Alverson, partner we're both actually certified financial planners.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a designation. I'm a certified exit planning advisor.
Okay.
We focus on really two things. It's helping business owners see to, through, and beyond the sale of their business, so that and then the second part is helping them manage their wealth from a private wealth standpoint. Okay. And so we try to cater our resources and our team to build around all of the necessary things that it takes for them to not only exit but scale it, get them specialists that can help them grow their business so they can have a successful exit.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I'm a certified financial planner as well. One thing that I love focusing on is philanthropy. I'm a chartered advisor in philanthropy as well. And so for me, what I found is a lot of business owners have a heart to give, and that kind of will bleed into our next conversation. But there are a lot of things you can do on the front end as well to maximize giving, not only from a philanthropy standpoint, from a tax standpoint too.
Okay. And how did you guys find McCall and Associates? What brought you here?
Yeah. So I honestly had ran my own, I was in personal training, believe it or not.
Okay. Yeah.
So when I first got out of college, I didn't know what I was going to do. I had my master's in business. I knew that I wanted to get into the finance world, but I didn't want to go the traditional route. And so I stumbled across an opportunity to help a failing gym scale and grow. Yeah. And we were able to grow it, make it profitable. And I was like, all right, I need to change and do a big boy job.
Yeah.
And so, and there was a guy at my church, and I really liked his liked his demeanor. Mm-hmm. I feel like he's 25 years older than I was, and I feel like it would be really good to learn and mentor from him. And so we joined a community group with him, and I got to see his character, got to see how he operated his life. And I said, I'm going to work for you someday. And right about the same time we were exiting, I was exiting that gym business, was the exact same time that he was kind of entering the next phase of his career. And so it was a good time, and I just jumped in, and That's awesome. It's been quite a ride. So
Yeah. Out of college, I was a baseball player. Okay. So I played baseball at Belmont, and afterwards played for about 6.5 years in the Pittsburgh Pirates organization, minor league ball. So that was a lot of fun. It was also challenging in a lot of ways too. As that was wrapping up, I honestly had no idea what I wanted to do. I was an entrepreneurship major at Belmont. Okay. And the only reason I did that is because I thought it would show me kind of a little sneak peek at all the different parts of business, marketing, management, technology, all that stuff. And as I got into it, there's actually a professor, Dr. John Gonis at Belmont, who had an investment lab course, and we actually managed a small portion of the endowment in this course, which was so fun. Wow. And so as I got into that, I thought, man, this would be actually a fun thing to do for a living. And so after baseball, I started meeting with a lot of firms, and what I found is that the profession financial advisor can mean a lot of different things.
Yes, it can.
And there are a lot of financial advisors. I think our offices are pretty close. I think there's over 40 on our street alone. Okay. And so as I got into it, I kind of narrowed my focus on what I wanted. I knew I wanted it to be very comprehensive on how we serve. I knew coming from my athletic background, I wanted to work with a team. And so I actually got to the same church as Steve and our managing partner, Barry McCall. And so I got introduced to them, sat down, and was looking at another offer actually at the time, but it was a no-brainer once they kind of offered for me to come on board and be a part of the team to take them up on that. And I'm so glad I did.
That's awesome. Yeah. So from baseball or a gym background, it brought you here, and you've been helping a bunch of different people, it sounds like. But I'd imagine when people come to you for the first time and are talking about, a successful business exit or planning for their future, that success means a lot of different things. So what are the typical ways that people are defining success or saying, what are their goals when they come to you?
Yeah. So success most often, from a financial planning standpoint, is, do I have enough assets to be able to do what I want to do? Mm-hmm. We talk all the time about how money, we put it on this pedestal, but really all it is a tool for you to do what you want to do in life. Now, is that start a business and grow that business? Is that help your kids and grandkids? Like that, what that why is can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And so our first step when we talk to a business owner is uncovering that why. Yeah. What's the purpose behind the business? What's the purpose behind the money? Because if we have that, then we can really give advice on, hey, you should do A, B, C, and D. Because I think one of the most dangerous things in our business is rules of thumb. I could sit here and spout out yes, you should max out your 401k, right? Don't take out a note over 7% if you can handle it, right? But the reality is that's going to differ, depending on the person. So uncovering that why really is most important at the forefront.
Yeah, we've got a process. We call it discovery, and really it's a qualitative time where we can see what's important to you as an individual. Mm-hmm. And so not only that, we have to unpack what's important for the business too, to see, okay, the business has its own issues, but you personally have your own goals, wishes, and issues. And so we have to uncover both of those before we can ever start talking quantitatively about, is this going to make sense? Is it not?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I'd imagine, the rules of thumb are the things you can just look up on Google, and if that's all it was, that's all anybody would do. Exactly.
Yeah. And all of our, we can sit here and use AI to help us with all that kind of stuff, but it's like the back of the napkin type, wisdom that we try to, that's what we're trying to align through our discovery process. So
and how much of it too in those early conversations is you actually having to correct misconceptions of what they think their money should do or what they should be doing with it? How much of it is listening versus also trying early on to make sure that they're not wasting their time on a variety of bad advice they may have gotten previously?
Yeah, I think like a lot of we spend most of our time just asking questions, and getting, because they'll come with their own preconceived notions about what they think they need or what they think their business is worth, or they've got, a lot of times we'll see, well, I have to sell it for this amount. And I'm like, well, where did you get that? How did you get to that amount? And so, and a lot of times what we find is that, it's one of both ways. They don't have to have the price that they were really hoping for, but then also they actually might need it to be more if they want to continue to do what they're going to do. And so we try to find what is that buffer zone on both sides, so that we can, once they do get an offer, once the business is in a good spot, once they're in a good spot, then they can say, you know what, I feel good about moving forward because I know I can take care of what I want to do with this amount, and anything up and above that is just gravy. So,
I'd imagine a lot of the early conversations are also emotional and trying to get to know them as a person too. I mean, you have to be able to give the advice that they actually need. So what is too early? When should somebody be talking to you? Like what is the ideal kind of timeline to be planning and thinking about this?
Yeah, I laugh because it really cannot be too early. I mean, honestly, when you're running a business,
Mm-hmm.
you need, and this is going to sound crazy, you need to start thinking about the exit before you even start the business.
Okay.
Right? Because a business has two parts, and most owners think about it mostly from a cash flow, right? How much are you bringing in each month, each year, from a revenue standpoint, from an owner's draw standpoint? What is this business producing? And that's so important, right?
Yeah.
That has to happen for a business to be successful. But really, you have this whole other part of a business, which is what we call enterprise value, the value if you were to go to market with your business today that it could sell for.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you're doing exit planning, it's not about the last 6 months before you go to market, getting all, your T's crossed and your I's dotted. It's about running your business in such a way that if you had to take it to market tomorrow or in a week or in a month, somebody would find it attractive and pay a high multiple for that.
Yeah, and that's so hard, I find, for a lot of owners to see because you get so, locked in on today. Maybe you can see it tomorrow, but that's about as far off as you can see.
It's really crucial that as you're building your business with the end in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have the end in mind, then it helps you make those like day-to-day decisions. Like, this is not important, or we probably should dig in deeper here, because if I have a process and I have a system in place for this, it's going to pay me dividends 2 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
And that will only pay you dividends, even more dividends, when you get to the second or 2 years from that point. Because if you want to sell in 5, it's like you've already done the hard work starting in year 1,
Yeah.
And so it's just, I can't iterate this again. We tell folks, like, just like someone, like a person that's a W-2 employee that's saving for retirement, they kind of have an idea, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. Well, I know for business owners, retirement is not quite the same, but your business, like, you have to know, okay, what am I scaling to? Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's like you're a ship without a sail. You're just kind of, where are you going with it?
Yeah, I'll give you an example of one way we find this is flat org charts. Mm-hmm. So a lot of business owners try to white knuckle everything, right? Mm-hmm. So they're at the top of the org chart. They play the role of not only the CEO, but the CFO, the CRO, right? And then they just have a bunch of employees under them doing different tasks. Mm-hmm. And so the idea of, let's say, hiring a general manager, right? From a year-to-year revenue standpoint, that's not a good idea, because you can do that job as the owner, and you're going to hire a high salary employee to come in and do all those things you're doing. So on a small perspective standpoint, not a great decision, right? But when you think about it from an exit planning standpoint, not only is that going to free up more of your time, but when a buyer comes and looks at your business, they're going to see, if I buy the owner out, we already have somebody in place and we know the business is going to continue to run successfully. It reduces risk, which ultimately will get you a higher multiple. Oh, and by the way, with all that free time that you have that you aren't spending in the business, you can go out and create more value.
Scale the business for sure. Yeah. We call that owner centricity. And so we see that a lot. And that's businesses that are operating on $500,000 in revenue or $10 million in revenue. You white knuckle, you know how to do it. All the problems come to me. I'll just work harder. I'll work 80 hours a week. That doesn't matter. Well, as a potential buyer, I don't want to buy a job.
Yeah. Especially not 80 hours a week.
Exactly.
It's a high paying job. I mean, so we call it owner centricity. So it's like E-Myth. I don't know if you've heard of the book E-Myth. Mm-mm. It's like E-Myth 101. It's like business 101. You as an owner or as a leader, you can only wear so many hats. And if you have all of the hats, all of the problems are naturally coming to you. And so where GM would come into play, or it doesn't necessarily have to be a GM. You just identify a role that is a time suck, and you say, I'm going to hire somebody to take care of this for me. And it doesn't necessarily have to be time, but it could be energy. It could be like, this is not what I'm good at, but if I could just hire this away, it gives me more creativity to scale in other areas.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. I know so many people who they white knuckled it to an edge. And once they hired some extra layers, their business tripled exponentially because suddenly they had the time, like you're saying, to actually think about the business. They didn't have to worry about the employees that called out today and the truck that they might have to jump in, or any kind of part of the business that they're, trying to just survive and take on all themselves. But yeah, a lot of it just comes from when you do less, you can do more. And it's just a hard thing, I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs in particular who have built this themselves and are so used to saying, this will be successful because I make it successful. That transition, I think, is really difficult.
And a lot of times it's not right away either, because once you hire that person, you have to train them, and then you have to get them. But if they're taking 2 days of your week, well, that you hired them to do 2 days. Well, they still have 3 more days, and now you've got 3 more days.
Yeah.
And so it might take some time once you get that system, and then you probably have some recovery to do. But then you're going to be like, well, I need to fill my 3 days. Well, I'll spend my time filling their 3 days. And then it just grows. It's fun. That's business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And, I think let's talk a little bit more tactically about this. When you're talking to owners, what are the things that you have them do, or have them think about at least, to start to remove themselves from the equation? I think hiring a general manager is one thing, but what are some of the things that they can do to make their business more transferable here?
We work with a couple different organizations. So the Exit Planning Institute, which is that's where my certification is through. They've got a network of advisors that we use, and we really like to use the acceleration or value acceleration methodology. And so that focuses on 90-day sprints. And so the way that you unpack from that, you have to do a business evaluation. And so you look at your personal financial wealth. You look at the finances of the business, the operations of the business, the sales of the business, the marketing of the business. You basically silo each area of your business, and you look at where are the problems. And so we like to work with a team called Cultivate Advisors, and they use this value acceleration methodology. And what they'll do is they'll do evaluation. It's like 30 questions, I think. And you get a scorecard. And so based on that scorecard, you'll do an assessment, and you'll say, okay, well, let's prioritize all of these problems based off of our score. And then from that, you unpack those and say, all right, let's start some 90-day sprints. And we'll say, for this quarter, we're going to work on this. For this quarter, we're going to work on this. For this quarter, you're going to work on this. And we've found that is really, because it's like you can't do it all at once. But if you can unpack and say, hey, I'm just going to focus on this for this 90 days, and you knock that out. If you finish it early, then you'll start, maybe you finish it in 60 days, you'll start another 90-day sprint. And so we've found that method, breaking it down and working on each individual thing by the quarter, it gives your team a focus to work on. And that's been the best way. Would you add anything?
No, I mean, I think when you're selling your business, what most people don't think about is that the buyer is purchasing future cash flow, not past cash flow. And so honestly, they don't care what you've done in the past if it's not going to translate to the future. Yeah. Right. And so as you're looking at your business, I think the thing that Cultivate does really well, and what we would encourage any business owner to do, is audit where the obstacles are going to be from a sustainability standpoint. Owner centricity is a big one. Finding repeatable sources of revenue, right? Is your revenue going to be able to transition to the new owner? is your culture strong? Do you have any bad eggs that could potentially be a risk to a new person coming into the business? So I think, as you're thinking about the transition, it's, if I were buying this business, what would the red flags be? And those are the things you need to clean up to start.
Yeah, that makes sense, because that's what a buyer's thinking about, is like, if I take this over, how can I do this tomorrow? How can I do this in a year? And a lot of times I think owners just say, oh yeah, I've got, it's a process. It's super easy. Yeah, you'll just be able to pick it up. But it's easy because you've done it for 10 years, 20 years. So how hard is it to get them to kind of quantify and consolidate those processes and make SOPs or anything like that?
That depends on the owner.
Yeah.
No one really likes to give up control.
Yeah.
But I think, it just depends. It depends on the owner,
Yeah.
And their personality, and you go back to what are they looking for in a sale, and assessing those goals, and unpacking those to see if you can.
Yeah. Here's what I always go back to is, why did they start the business?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to get a lot of different answers, right? It could be, I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted uncapped income, right? But at the core of all of those answers is something about freedom, right? Freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of control. And if I had to ask, the business owners listening to this podcast, are you experiencing this freedom? I found that most owners, the answer to that would be no. Right. They find themselves in a different kind of purgatory, a different kind of jail. Right.
Yeah.
And so, relinquishing control is never easy. We feel like we can do things better than anybody else. But as you start to find quality people to outsource to, not only are you going to find that other people can do what you do, but you also start to unlock and untap that freedom that you started with in the first part. It sounds counterintuitive, but once you start to get little pieces of that, man, that's a really freeing feeling.
Yeah. And I think it's something you almost just have to take that first step and that first leap. There's only so much you can just believe. You really have to do it before you actually start to experience it. Hey guys, we just wanted to pause for a moment to invite you to our free events that are happening throughout the year. Whether you're just getting started in the logistics industry or you're looking to optimize your current operation, Route Consultant has events that are designed specifically for you. So head on over to routeconsultant.com/events or check out our show notes to register for free today. Also, while you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Industry Insights with Route Consultant podcast so that you don't miss out on the stories, the advice, and the updates that are happening throughout the industry. We appreciate you being here and hope to meet you in person soon. Now let's get back to the episode. One of the things we've touched on it some, but from a financials perspective, what are the most important things for an owner as they're, in a perfect world, you've planned out your exit 5-10 years in advance and you're keeping track and making sure all of your financials are, perfect. But like, even if it is the last 6 months, is there anything somebody can do to better prepare their business for a close from a financial perspective? Or the main things, I guess?
Assessing, you need to assess obviously debt. You got to have an understanding of what the taxes are, because those are two things that a lot of times people aren't paying attention to, because that's going to be, they're going to take that off of the top. And so, and then, you do go back to making sure, is it efficient? How involved are you? All of those things that we've talked about before. But I think as you're looking 6 months out, get an understanding of the taxes, getting an understanding of what your wiggle room is, because once you get closer to the sale, a lot of times your asking price, that's not necessarily what you get. Yeah. And you have to be okay with that. And so.
Yeah. One stat that the Exit Planning Institute put out that was a little bit mind-boggling to me is that 50% of all exits are involuntary, meaning the owner dies. There's some sort of disagreement between partners. There's a divorce, or somebody has to give up equity in the business. And so that's why it's important to plan for this 10, 15 years really from the start of the business, because there's a 50% chance that you're going to have to exit when you're not planning on it. And so for a business owner, that's really thinking through, what do I need to do in the next 6 months really to exit? It's so important, to have a team in place well before you're even considering that. And that includes, yes, us as financial advisors, but also someone like Route Consultants, right? That is going to be a partner. Go ahead and have those conversations, even if you're not looking to sell. So that way, both parties, there's just a familiarity there.
Yeah.
You have to have a great CPA. And that's not somebody who can help you mitigate taxes year to year. That's important, but also can structure the business in a way that's going to be tax advantageous when you go to sell. And insurance, somebody who specializes in insurance is very important. An attorney that focuses on mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah.
Specifically in your industry.
Yeah.
That has an understanding of what you don't want to go with just a general attorney. You want to have somebody who has some transactions because every single business is different and every single business line is different. And so there's just, the contracts are different. And you need to have somebody who specializes in those so they can give you some pitfalls or guide you through some challenges that you wouldn't necessarily know by without having gone through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I really think that mindset is so important of, you don't know what's going to happen. And if you're not prepared today for being able to exit tomorrow, you're not going to be ready when those things do happen. And so being able to have a plan where you've got everything charted out for over 15 years is great, but you have to be ready at any given day to operate as if you could close tomorrow. And I think that's a big mindset shift for a lot of people, but it's really important because that is ultimately what lets you exit successfully and maximize that exit. When you're thinking about, or when you've had conversations, what are some of the kind of the value killers that you've seen when it comes to exit that can really pull down that money that they actually think they're going to make at the close?
Yeah. Taxes, fees, commissions, those are things you can't avoid, but things you have to consider in the transaction. The other thing is just expectations, right? I mean, everybody looks online or talks to a buddy about, the EBITDA multiple that they were able to get on the value of the business. One that might not even be the same type of business, right? But also their business is very different than yours, right? So you have to look at your business through one lens and not have ears out, that's comparative. And so those are two things that I think are big. The last, and Steve mentioned this earlier, is debt. A lot of times, if let's say you're going to sell a business for $5 million, and that is a successful exit, in the size, in the scope of businesses in the world. But once you pay fees, taxes, commissions, that number dwindles. Then if you have $2 million of debt on that business, all of a sudden that net number that you receive is a whole lot smaller than the $5 million that's going to be, listed on the sale price. And so it's taking all that stuff into consideration are big killers that we see business owners go back to the drawing board and say, if I do these 10 things over the next 5 years, the exit will be a lot more successful.
And I would add to that, like I have seen a number of businesses that we were talking about this before the show, is like you look at you think a business is attractive based on cash flow. Well, that cash flow doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's how much is the owner actually taking out of it. And so if especially I would challenge folks, really, you need to be thinking a year in advance at least so that you can clean up the books. Because I know business owners like to live out of their business. I mean, it's very justifiable. I understand it's gray area. They're living between the my football coach would say, we're going to keep everything between the whistles and within the rules, right? Because you don't want to get in trouble. But so business owners that's a great way to mitigate taxes. But as a buyer, if I'm going to buy a business, I want to see, okay, how much cash flow is the owner actually getting out of the business? And so what we like to tell folks is, if you can't necessarily pull everything out until after the sale, we call it a recasted earnings. And so you say, yes, here's the cash flow, here's the EBITDA, but I actually have, this is a personal expense, this is a personal expense, this is a personal expense. That's actually, we'll take that out and recast those earnings. And so it actually makes the cash flow a lot better. Because like retirement savings, all that kind of stuff, you need to pull that out because the new owner is going to realize that as part of their, and so you need to do some forensics. We call it quality of earnings. You need to identify what are the things that you can extract out of the expenses that the new owner will realize.
Yeah. There's, like you said, there's a lot of it. There's all kinds of line items that I'm sure we're very used to seeing that you're like, what is this? Like 50,000. Oh, I bought a new car. It's like, okay, well that's your personal, that doesn't have to go into the EBITDA for the business. And
then that could go to a recasted EBITDA. Maybe you're not getting 4, but you're getting 3.8. But if you add $50,000 to your EBITDA, I mean, at 4X, that's another $200,000 that you found that you just forgot about, so.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And I do think that's really important for helping people to conceptualize what their business is worth, because you live in the numbers of what you see in your bank account, your weekly statement, but not realizing all of the things that you've decided to put into the business for how you want to run your business and your life. But that a new owner wouldn't have to necessarily take on.
And on that note too, I've heard a couple of business owners say they're looking to purchase, like if you do have things that are in there that are not quite legitimate, you want to get that out, because that's a yellow flag and that's a red flag, and a buyer's going to want a discount on the price if a buyer sees that you're skirting some of the rules in that area, what other things are you hiding? So you want to be very transparent. You want to be very open, because you want everything to be fair. Yeah. So.
Yeah, especially if there's banks involved, like you don't want, even if a bank sees something, they're going to be, they view risk as, that they have a dollar and cents way of calculating risk. So if they see that, that's just money that you're going to lose, regardless of how people feel.
Or they won't lend.
At all. Yeah.
And then the buyer's like, I can't do this because the bank won't let me.
Yeah. So, those are the scary things. On the flip side, though, like, what are ways that you see people add value to their business by being really conscientious in this process as they're thinking about the end in mind?
Yeah. Freeing up cash flow, making the hard choices on the front end. You don't want to have equipment that everything's going to need to be replaced in 18 months. Yeah. Split that up over time, make it into a ladder that you're recurring. I know that you guys work with a lot of trucks. You don't want to have all of the trucks with the same mileage on it. Yeah. You want to have a 20,000 mile, 40,000, that way they can spread out your problems. You don't want to have everything. You just it's almost like, especially if you're looking to sell, you're not going to keep the business forever. And so you need to be a good steward of that. And so the more things that you can do, that can set the new owner up for success, that's only going to add more value. And so build a business that you would want to buy. Yeah. And if you're making each decision based off of that, you're going to be in a really good place.
Yeah.
And I would also say that yes, you need to know enough to be dangerous about this, but your expertise as a business owner is running a great business. It doesn't have to be making sure your books are squeaky clean. It doesn't have to be making sure that you're going to have enough assets post-sale to be able to do what you want to do. I think the biggest thing is finding people that you can trust, that you can lean on, that you can be honest with, that you can say, hey, I'm running right now. These are my 4 or 5 biggest issues. What advice would you give me? Or how can you help me sort or fix these issues? And let those people go to work and do what they're good at and what their expertise entails. As much as you can outsource those things and not try to do it yourself, we found that to be very, very successful.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I just don't think most entrepreneurs value their time properly. They think about, I can just spend more hours and be successful, is what we talked about earlier. But when you're running a business, your time is incredibly valuable, incredibly important, and something that may take you 10 hours. If you can have somebody else do it in an hour, it is worth the money to pay them to, that's what they're experts at. They can save you so much time that you can use in 100 different areas. And I think sometimes that's the hardest thing. It's what we've been talking about, releasing control, but that can go a really long ways towards you being successful and unlocking a lot of value and freedom for your business that you're looking for ultimately.
Yeah, practically one thing that you could do that I don't encourage everybody does, especially business owners, is take an entire week, Monday through Sunday, and on your calendar, actually list out what you've done with all your time, almost do an audit, right? And if that task or that appointment was either time sucking for you and you didn't enjoy it, or it wasn't producing any sort of revenue for the business, mark that red. If it was some, write yellow. If you really enjoyed it or it was very valuable to the business, mark that green. And at the end of the week, look back and kind of see what your calendar entailed. I would guess most business owners, there's going to be a lot of red and yellow on there, right? So how can you get that calendar more into the green scope?
Yeah, I think that's a great, I can do that starting today. That should be hopefully.
I feel like I need to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I guess just as a last point for today, can either of you or both of you walk me through kind of a story of how you, what was it like when somebody first came to you versus, a successful exit for them, whatever that meant, and kind of walk through what that looks like for somebody?
Yeah. You gonna go first?
I'll give a story that's still going. That's ongoing.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So we had a gentleman that came through, and he had an opportunity. Someone came in to made him a very attractive offer, and so we did a qualitative assessment. Say, okay, personally, what do you want to do? You and your family. What do you want this? What are your goals personally? And then let's look at the business. And so after that, we did a quantitative session as well, and we found that yes, this is an attractive offer, but where you are debt wise and your net that you're going to receive out of this, it makes the most sense for you to say no to this. And it's not like a no, like it's a not yet. But he did all of the work that it took to say, okay, if I were to exit, this is what I'd like to do. And out of that, he knows, okay, I need 3 more years, 3 more years, and I'm going to be able to, I'll have this debt down. And then should this offer come back, it'll be a lot more attractive. But also out of that exercise, he hired a general manager. And so the general manager is going to take time off his plate. So not only is he going to be able to free his time up to scale, but he's also going to have margin for his family. And who knows, in 3 years, he's got the debt down. He's making a little bit more. He might keep the business. This guy was relatively young. And so out of that exercise, he actually created margin in his life. And he knows in 3 years, he'll have margin in his budget as well. And so I could see him keeping it for another 10 years. Yeah. Because it's a very profitable, well-running business. But it took that offer that he wasn't ready to accept for him to make those hard changes. Yeah. And to do the planning. Yeah. So that's...
Yeah, sometimes it's one of those funny things where it's like, money, just a dollar amount can look attractive just because it's big. And you don't think about what that means for you afterwards. And I know we're going to be talking more about that in the next episode. But really, I think, like you said at the beginning, how does the money help you achieve what your ultimate goals are in life? It's a tool, but you have to think about what it actually gets you and how much it actually is. And at the end of the day.
Yeah. You have to define, I mean, you said it best. What are the freedom points? Like what type of freedom do you value? And that could mean a couple different versions of freedom. It's not just finances. Yeah. And so
let me share a success story and to finish on and that hits on exactly this. So I'm working with business owners right now. I say owners, it's 2 partners. They split the business about 50-50. They're different ages, right? But they both have a desire to exit right now. Neither of them are 50 yet. But they found that they've built this very successful business. they know they could continue to scale it, but there's risk, right, in continuing to scale it. We never know what the future holds. Most of the time it's positive, it could be negative. And so they explicitly said, we have this successful business. We want to look at what it looks like to take chips off the table right now. So to Steve's point about what he did with the business owner he was referring to, we took them both through a discovery and design process of, if we sold for, what you could get in the open market today, we found out what that number is, net of fees, taxes, and commissions, what would you walk away with? And that in conjunction with your other assets, and they're going to continue to work part-time, what does that income look like? And could you do what you want to do for the rest of your life with that? And the answer is yes. They've built a successful business and they were able to do that. And so even though they could continue to scale, they could continue to grow, they could probably get not only a higher multiple, but a higher value in the future. Again, or not, depending on risk. Yeah. They were able to say yes to an offer, and they're going to be just fine after it. In the confidence and the amount of stress relief, and they even mentioned, like, we want you to talk us off the ledge here, just because it's such a big decision. Yeah, right. Businesses are business owners' babies, and so giving that up, even if it's a great buyer, is always tough.
Yeah, and I think both of those examples point to the fact that, man, there is also a lot of peace of mind and freedom in just knowing that I can exit. This is a number that I could exit. Like that, whether that means you do or not, I think there's so much freedom in knowing that I've built something and I have a plan in place and I can achieve the exit. And so, for your guys, it was yes. For yours, it was, I have to wait a couple of years, but it may be that at the end of a couple of years, I still know that I could.
Doesn't have to, though.
It doesn't have to.
Because you've got a much more profitable, much more efficient business, and you've gotten your time back.
Correct. Yeah. So I think that'll kind of capture what I wanted us to hit on for part one. A lot of what we're going to be talking about next for all of our listeners is, what are you thinking about to plan for after you sell the business? How are you thinking about, let's say you've got that chunk of money that is the money you were looking for. What do you do with it? What does it mean to plan for the next step, for the legacy afterwards? And so I think that's something that most business owners, if they thought about exit strategy, that's the end. That's the end of their thought process, as they think up to the point where they get the money. And so we're going to talk next time about what it means to think past that. So, Steve, Austin, thank you guys for being here and for answering all those questions and talking through it. And I'm looking forward to next time.
Yeah. Thanks for having us,
Yeah.
Josh. Yeah.